Thank you for choosing to watch this interview video. It's a privilege sharing my teaching experience with you. I'll go ahead and read the interview questions. Please tell us about yourself. What are your interests and hobbies? My name is Babajide Olubenga Odufa. My colleagues call me Jide. I'm a graduate of special education with specialty in learning disabilities. I have over 7 years teaching experience. I'm married and my hobbies include going to nature field places such as visiting the beach, hiking. I also love the game of football and chess. Are you involved in extracurricular activities that you could coach or supervise? Yes, I am involved in extracurricular activities. I support the school football coach in the game of football to support kids who are having special needs and who love the game of football. I also am a member of the school chess club where we teach and support the kids who are interested in the game of chess. Why did you decide to become a teacher, a special education teacher? This came as a result of my learning difficulties growing up. I struggled through school. There was unfortunately no teacher who is specialized to identify my learning condition, so it makes learning so difficult for me. After high school, I was enrolled in a special education school. That's a college of education. Unfortunately, they were teaching. I took special education as a course, and that helped me to be able to identify my learning condition. And I started working on myself. I was able to improve my skills. So that created a passion in me, knowing that there are a lot of colleagues who also struggle through school and wouldn't have special needs teacher to support them. So that became my passion, and I took it as a career upon myself to make sure that I develop my skills in the field and also give back to the society. Are you currently employed as a teacher? Yes, I'm currently employed with Distinct Ability Special Education Services. How many hours per day do you teach and how many days per week? I teach for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Briefly describe your teaching experience. What special education subjects have you taught and at what grade level? I have taught mathematics and English language, and I've taught basically across all year level. But if I'm given the opportunity to choose, I would prefer elementary year level or middle kindergarten year level. Briefly describe other work experience you have had beside teaching. I've really not had I've not had any teaching experience. I mean, any experience outside of teaching. Although I've tried to speak up some other aspect of teaching, which includes training facilitation and counseling. Have you ever worked in the United States? If so, when, where, and why? I've never worked in the United States, but I've been a member of the National Association of Special Education Teachers of the United States. We share a platform where we discuss about our experiences, how to improve on ourselves, and also how to improve in or get the career better. And if I'm given the privilege to actually teach in the United States, it will be an opportunity to also have a first-hand experience with these teachers that are very good at what they do. What do you hope to be doing professionally 5 years from now? I hope to be a speech pathologist. It's also an area of gap in back here in Nigeria, and I feel if I can broaden my career path in that aspect, it will allow me to be able to reach out to more people who are having need in that category or that area as well. If I were to talk to several of your colleagues, how would they describe your personality? I'm sure they will say that I'm a jovial person, I'm patient, and I'm a good listener. What would your students say about you? I'm sure they will say that I'm a very patient person. My class is very interactive and engaging, and they will also say that I'm a very good listener as well. How do you prepare to teach your lesson? One of the things that I consider most importantly is my state of mind. I try to make sure that I have a good state of mind. I also try to consider the IEP for that lesson or for the lesson I'll be taking. I also try to understand the child, understanding the learning style of the child, and I also try to consider the resources that I'm going to be using to teach. And most importantly, I try to prepare a conducive learning environment. What would your lesson plans include? My lesson plan will definitely be an extract from the IEP, and that will be subject to the goals of the IEP, and then it will then be broken down into the lesson target. Then I will also it will include the teaching strategy that I'm going to be using for that lesson. It will include making sure that the resources that I'm going to be using for that lesson is available. It will include the learning style of that child as well. Like I said, I like to consider the learning style of the child, knowing that these are special needs children. And also, it will include the evaluation process of that lesson. And another thing I try to develop myself with is the use of note taking, which also helps me with my evaluation process. So these are the things I will include in my lesson plans. Think about a class that you have taught recently. Talk about two of the teaching strategies or methods that you used. I use active listening, active learning rather. Active learning helped me to be able to have a consistent engagement with the child. So it reduced the level of distraction and it allowed the child to to be consistently engaged throughout the lesson. So active learning is one of the strategies that I use. I also use effective discussion. Effective discussion allows the children to be able to have a meaningful discussion with you. We are not trying to make the children learn the same way they've been learning in the classroom. So we are trying to go an extra mile with them, making sure that they actually have a clear understanding and an independence of the concept that we are trying to pass across to them. So if you are able to have the discussion with them, it allows you to prepare their mind and to also know that the kids have a certain level of knowledge of that concept or of that lesson. So discussion will help you to be able to identify all of that. So it's a very good strategy that I use with the kids, and the kids they love it because it helps them to also speak up and to also engage you in the area that they might be having weaknesses. What methods do you use to grade or evaluate your students' progress? Now, for special education, evaluation or grading is very flexible. It depends on factors, which could include what is the placement of the child. If the child is placed in an inclusive setting, in settings, definitely the evaluation or grading for such a child will be primarily based on the classroom expectation or the classroom grade or the curriculum expectation. But if it is an inclusive, a self-contained setting, definitely the expectation of such a child will be based on the IEP goal or IEP target for such a child. And for us to evaluate that or to grade a child with that, it depends on so many factors, which could include on the what are the expectations for that IEP, what are we trying to what are the expectation with the child. So all of this will determine the kind of grading or evaluation process that we use, which could include, for instance, checklists, which is mostly used when you're trying to correct a behavior with a child. So checklist is the best process for one of the processes for evaluating a behavior. We use rubric. We also could use scaling. We also could use. We can even use interview, data collection, observation. All of these are grading and evaluation process that it's mostly used in special education. If you use technology in your teaching, describe how you use it. Specifically, discuss your experience using a smartboard and ways that you incorporate it into your lesson. I use a lot of technology in my teaching. Most importantly, I use the iPad or tablet because they contain a lot of resources that makes it easy for you to use, and we also make it easier for kids who are visual learners to be able to learn directly from the screen. So it makes learning even more easier for such children. And also, you can also project your presentation or your slide on the screen, and it allows the kids to even see the bigger picture of what you're trying to teach. And for in the case of Smartboard, it's a very good tool in the sense that it allows me to project my PowerPoint, and it makes learning even more easier. And for some cases, Smartboard is an interactive tool. So it makes learning very interactive, and it makes learning very friendly for the kids. For instance, let's say I'm teaching a small group and I'm trying to teach them how to use punctuation marks. The kids can easily go to the board, and probably I projected a paragraph or a sentence, and I'm trying to make the kids use a certain punctuation mark on this in the sentence. It makes it easier for them to go and use their hands to identify where punctuation marks will be, and it makes it very, very interesting for the kids to learn with. If you have students who are noisy or non-attentive, share with us two ways you get them to be quiet and concentrate. One of the ways that I use mostly is the class rule strategy. I try to set the class rules and then try to make the kids familiarize themselves with those rules. So if they can understand the rules or the expectation of such a class, it's easier for me to just remind them each time they are going contrary to such rule. For instance, maybe if the child is noisy or not concentrating as the question says, all I need to do is just to uh, jokingly remind them, what does my rule says in number so. What does my rule says in number so, and they all echo it, and then the kids in question, or the kid who is not paying attention, who is noisy, would definitely understand that he or she is breaking my class rules. So that will check the child. And another thing I use is the collection of points. I try to set a goal for the lesson, and then I instruct them that whoever get a certain level of point without maybe not making noise and trying to concentrate gets a sticker at the end of the lesson, or get a stamp, or any other reward that is available. So that has been working for me very well. Describe the most difficult problem you have had to deal with as a teacher, and how did you solve this problem? One of the problems that I have to deal with has to do with not being able to manage, or not being able to control a child's emotion or feelings. And this results into throwing of tantrum or meltdown. So in such situation, I've been able to learn how to track the antecedents of such behavior. So what we do is, like, we find out what are the triggers for this behavior, what are the things that makes a child either throw tantrum or try to go into meltdown. So we try to manage or avoid those triggers or the antecedent that leads into such behavior, because we don't want that to disrupt the class. We don't want the child to hurt him or herself. So all of these are things that are very difficult in managing, and with the use of those strategy, it's been very helpful, and we've been able to curtail such situation. Give one example to show that you are a flexible person and that you can make changes to your teaching and methods if that is necessary. I think one of the situation that I found myself in was when I was teaching, and then power suddenly went out, and I was actually teaching the children, a small group, on how to count. We're trying to count numbers 1 to 20. So all I did was to take them out of the classroom. I took them to the play area, got some numbers of balls, then got two baskets on two hands. So we were able to make it we convert it into a play method where I asked the kids to take a certain ball into the basket, and then they are all trying to count the numbers of balls they're able to take into each basket. So it was fun that way, and it makes the learning even more, more easier and more interactive. Is there anything you would like to add about your qualification that we may not be aware of? There is nothing for now. I think most of the qualifications have been uploaded on Faces. Have you spoken to your family about going to the United States to teach? Is there anything such as family member that might object to your leaving home? Are you aware that your family members may not join you here until approximately 4 to 6 weeks after your arrival? Yes, I'm very aware, and my family has been very supportive of this. Do you understand and accept that FACES is a 3 year program, and after 3 years, you must return to your home country? Do you agree to this? Yes, I strongly agree. And I think this is just an opportunity to expose to get more experience and to also get some level of exposure. That will be all. Thank you so much for listening.